Hello everybody, I'd like to share something with you that happened December 12th, 2003 through February 4th, 2004. The testimony that I have on why do I believe in God took place here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I would like to share with you what happened. December 12th, 2003, I was a junior at the school. It was called Custer High School at the time. Right now it's called Barack Obama. But when I was here almost 10 years ago, I was a junior at the time. 3 months, prior to December 12th, 2003, I actually was smoking, skipping school, drinking, hanging around the wrong crowd. Just things that pretty much would get me caught up not knowing that it would. And I was very sneaky at the time. Didn't tell my mother. Just kept it a private life doing bad things. 3 or 4 hours prior to the school being released, me and my friends actually skipped school. And his friends wound up picking us up. So we drive around Milwaukee trying to talk to females, trying to smoke with them, things like that, even though it didn't happen. So we just ride around the school just freestyling around. And then they pretty much took me home. My mother didn't know nothing about it at the time, nor my mother's boyfriend that was living with us at the time either. So as my friends dropped me off, this right here was my room at the time. So they dropped me off. My little sister was here, my mother's boyfriend was here at the time, and I had an urge to pray. I'm not going to pray back then, but I had an urge to pray, so I actually got on my knees right here. And I actually said, I want to go to heaven. I don't know what was in me to say that, but that's exactly what I did. I actually wanted to go to heaven. So I said that prayer. Only thing I can remember at the time right now. So next thing you know, the phone rang. So as I walked downstairs, I had to pretty much grab the phone, and it was my friend that I'm in the line. She had said that, do you want to come by? I was like, okay, fine, come on by. So pretty much got my things with me, and then I head out the door. Before that, I told my mother was actually at work at the time, so I told my stepfather that I was here, my mother's boyfriend. I called my stepfather. Then I said bye to my little sister. So as I pretty much left this room, and then after that I just left and went by his house. That was it. Now how I met the guy, around November 2003, it was a famous chat line site that everybody went to. I was first introduced by a friend of mine in school. And so I met up with this guy. And even though he was, he said he was maybe 10 years older than me at the time, I figured that it would be okay to talk to him. And so from there we exchanged numbers. A week before December 12th, I was pretty much came by his house. He picked me up. He met my mother, met my mother's boyfriend. Figured he was a cool guy, Came over there, we smoked, we drank, watching TV, laughing, doing anything that pretty much a little guy like me would do with a grown guy, just hanging around, Didn't really think nothing bad about it at the time. So, on the day of December 12th, 2003, after my friend pretty much picked me up, came over his house, did the same thing like we did the week before that, smoke, drink. So what is he sat down right next to me, cut the blunt open, put the weed in there and wrapped it up, and then put it in the microwave. I thought it strange to put in the microwave, so otherwise I really didn't worry about it. I was just looking at TV. So and from there he told me to come in the kitchen with him and smoke, and so we smoked back and forth. And he just started laughing. He told me to inhale it more. For some reason it was kind of strange because the marijuana was very powerful to the point I was coughing. I never had a cough like that before. It was just, I was keep coughing. He told me to keep smoking. So I just decided to put it down. And so I wound up picking it back up, trying it again. So he wound up going to his closet and getting out a camcorder. And when he got the camcorder, he started asking me questions like what do you want in a girl? I try to respond to it the best way I can, but for some reason my speech became so slurred, so stuttering, I can't even talk right nor think right. And he started asking me, like, what do you think about the war in Iraq and things like that. And I was still trying to, respond to what he was saying, but I couldn't. It's like all of a sudden my body was just cold. It was just numb. Like I didn't have no feeling, like wherever I just didn't have no feeling at all. It's kind of a scary thing to experience, a very scary experience that I've been through. And so then he asked me, like, are you a homosexual? And I said, no. I'll respond to that real good. I was like, no. And he was like, what if I want to come on to you? That's exactly what he said to me. And as much strength that I had, I actually got up, ran out of his apartment building. He was on the top floor. I ran out of his apartment building. Matter of fact, I ran out of his room, out of his door at the time. And then I pretty much got downstairs where the main door is at, the entrance. And as I was running downstairs, it seemed like it was my last breath being taken. It seemed like I was just reliving that moment again. It's like maybe I seen in the bad dream, or it was like a nightmare that I was reliving. And it seemed like all of my surroundings was just dark, evil. And I was just wondering, like, what's going on? What's happened to me? Only thing was on my mind right now was just escaping, like going home or going to a church where I needed to be. And as I tried to get to the door downstairs, trying to unlock it to go outside, I just fell out. I fell completely out. Everything became dark. As my eyes was trying to open, and it's like I was seeing the same darkness, like wherever I'm at. I kept crying out to God, where am I? Like, I need help. I was constantly screaming out his name, I need help, like, please help me. At the top of my lungs, I was just constantly crying out for help. And it seemed like what I was in, still to this day, I could not explain it. It felt like I was locked inside my mom's womb. It's like I tried to escape, but there was no way escaping. I tried to touch the walls, and it seemed like, the walls were sweaty. I didn't have no temperature. I didn't feel no love. I felt like my family was just gone. My friends were gone. I seen flashes of images of them. And it seemed like it was just disappearing. And I was constantly crying, screaming. Like, I need help. Please help me. I was just asking God to please help me. Within that experience, I wound up getting up. And as I got up, actually, the only thing was on my mind was to escape. So as I escaped, I wound up punching the glass door. I did not know what I was doing. The only thing that was on my mind was just getting home or getting to a church which was located right across the street from my house at the time. And I wound up just running. Blood everywhere. It was like watching an old footage because I was off and on dozing. Like, I just can't remember. As I'm trying to remember now, it's kind of difficult, but I'm going to get through with this. So I was always running out the house. I seen the guy. I tried to ask the guy for help, and I wound up punching him. And I wound up getting to his car and just driving to the house. Like I said, the only thing that was on my mind was to escape. So as I was pretty much in the car, I drove up the street, I crashed to another car. And when I wound up crashing to another car, I got into the car I crashed. And it seemed like I couldn't get in and drive it like I was supposed to. And then a cop came to me, and I ran into the cop. And I asked the cop, like, I need help. And what happened, but like I said, he didn't really understand what I was saying. It seemed like I was talking out one side of my mouth. My body was it felt like it was paralyzed. I'm trying my best to move it. And so I just ran from him, and then I just jumped over a wooden fence. I climbed up there and just got over it. And I was just constantly praying to stay alive, It's so scary to the point where I needed help, and there was no one around. So I just started praying. I kept saying Christ's name, just help me. So as I fell out again, I noticed that every time I was praying, it was just keeping me alive. So I just keep praying. Each step I took, I was keep praying. And I looked at my hands, and I didn't have no feeling. There was blood all over it, and I didn't even have no socks on. I didn't even have no shoes on. I don't know how that was possible. So as I seen the cops, I seen police cars just fell out, and actually this is a spot right here where I was actually arrested. They wound up trying to talk to me, and then they locked me up. They pretty much put me in a 4-point restraint, and then they put me into an ambulance where I was going to the hospital. while I was in the ambulance, they asked me questions like, what happened to you? Is there anybody I can contact? The officers was asking me these questions. I'm trying my best to remember it. And as I did, I told them the truth, what was happening. And I still was in pain. I was still just upset about everything that happened. And like I said, I was still trying to escape and go home, go to a church. And that's mainly it here. As the ambulance and the officers took me to the hospital right here at Freighter, next to Children's Hospital, Wisconsin. Certain things I really couldn't remember, but I know one thing, there was a bunch of officers around me, and nurses trying to clean me up, but yet I was still crying. I was still screaming out God's name, Like I said, what was in my mind was just to escape, and I was still thinking that I was back at that guy's house. So, as I was at the hospital, I remember my hand being cuffed to one of the bed. And, I was just so hyper. I couldn't control myself. I just needed to get out, Back then, I don't know what I was doing to the people. I did not know I harmed them. That's not me. I never had the intention to do that. But I just seen just blood all over the place. And my mother was there. I actually rised up trying to see what was down the lobby room, and I actually seen my mother. She looked right at me, and I kind of calmed down, but my mother couldn't actually come in and see me. So from there, the officers tried to calm me down. The nurses did too, trying to do the best they can. My mother looked at me, and I looked at her. I kind of calmed down. I was at ease, but I was still hyper. I was off and on fainting, knowing my whereabouts. I don't know. I was still, like I said, I was still hyper. I tried my best to just get out of it, but I couldn't. My body was still in pain, but just about a suffering of a cut. If you can see real closely, I actually had 32 or 30 some staples, and the stitches was right here, and also on my hand right here too, but it was majority on this arm that I had the most damage. Tendons were very harmed. Right, thank God I can actually still move it. So, as the officers, I believe they left, I really couldn't remember, but then, as I was laying down, I was surrounded by light. Now, I don't know where I was at the time, but I know I was surrounded by light. This light was it was very bright. Brighter than the sun itself. It was so bright. And I even looked at myself. I didn't feel no pain no more. I felt like very healthy. I felt good. And I couldn't look at myself because it was still light. Like my body was light too. And I just said to this light while I was looking, I just said like, I want to live. And I remember those exact words, I want to live. And once that happened, I woke up. And I see myself in the hospital bed, my arm kind of cleaned up. It was like a cast on my arm. And then there was an officer right there. And the officer said, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I asked him what happened. Certain officers actually took shifts watching me. Some didn't speak to me and some did. And I asked each one of them, like, do you remember what happened? Because I don't. I'm trying to go back in my mind, just like think what happened. I know I hurt someone. I know I did damage, but, it just seemed weird because I'm not the type of guy to do that. And so 2 detectives had came in that day and they asked me, do you remember the incident what took place?